While we wait for the next big game in the Like a Dragon franchise, let's dip into this little side project. For those who don't know, the Like a Dragon franchise, known mostly in the West as Yakuza, is a series of brawler games whose main standing point is the tonal clash between the ludicrous side quests and the dramatic main stories, alongside the fact that the studio keeps trying new ways of improving or changing the gameplay, including switching base elements like, for example, from a brawler to a turn-based RPG from Yakuza 6 to 7. They are also somewhat infamous in a weird Star Trek way where they often launch a good game and then a bad game in succession. 7 was good, Infinite Wealth was so bad it was amazing how they didn't explode. And now, Majima in Hawaii. Was it good? Was it bad? It is, maybe, the sign that they sadly stagnated and will crumble down. Set after the events of Infinite Wealth, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is the third game in the Like a Dragon franchise, protagonized by Goro Majima, everyone's favorite one-eyed psychopath madman who has also stalked series protagonist Kiryu Kazuma like the Joker stalks Batman, but with the difference that Majima can actually be interesting and fun. Yes, third game. I'm one of the very few fans of the franchise who remembers that Goro debuted as a main character in Yakuza Dead Souls. But don't worry, I stopped hurting myself on the level of playing Dead Souls quite a while ago. And since Judgment is deader than Disco because of the lack of a good protagonist and a feud between Sega and Japan's model agencies, we take a breather from Ichiban's schizophrenia and return to the brawler gameplay. Spin-off games such as The Man Who Erased His Name and Judgment are fertile ground for the Like a Dragon studios to experiment with new mechanics and story. They can just let loose and break from the normal formula, explore new territories, and with that, new facets of known characters. Thus, the game starts with Majima waking up amnesic in an island and being promptly adopted by a kid and his pet tiger. Oh boy. Since this is a side game, a spin-off, it is no surprise to see that the visual aspect of Yakuza in Hawaii was severely toned down. It's normal, a bit disappointing, but normal to see copy-pasted assets everywhere. But I have to say that, even in the spin-off aspect, things are disappointing. Uninspired even. I'm not expecting a whole new grand maps of completely new areas, but the visuals heralded everything about this game. The ships are pretty, Majima's new attires are also nice, but everything else just screams token effort where previous assets were cobbled together from spittle and gum in a rush. The islands you visit are bare bones, and the majority looks like LA's poorer districts because it's all made of trash and tents. The sea itself feels like it's good enough job. Could be better, could be worse. Hawaii is here and it's still pretty as usual, nothing has changed. The new area, the pirate heaven Madlantis, is meh. On one hand, it does use the neat idea of a hive made of discarded ships turned into a heaven for scoundrels. On the other, it doesn't hold a candle to the castle from Man Who Erased His Name, which was also a haven for criminals made from a discarded ship. Its design is more of a really long corridor rather than a centered hub, which makes walking between points of interest an annoying chore, but that's more for gameplay. What's up, Mr. Sunday? Thank you for your opinion, Mr. Sunday. Now, back to the review. What disappoints me most are the character designs. This is a game about modern-day pirates that nonetheless use ships from the age of sailing and dress like the part, and as soon as you lay your eyes on the cover and see Majima wearing that costume, you know that all the bets are off and logic flew to the window to never return. Yet, the Pirate King looks like the kind of irrelevant goon that Kiryu would have pummeled to a pulp outside of Stardust. The king of the arena looks like a counterfeit melee budget version of a Jiren cosplayer, and the pirate queen looks like someone spent too much time playing Resident Evil 8 and couldn't get enough of a big evil wide-brimmed head-on mummy. And don't get me started on the Majima's allies. Oh wait, I have to talk about them, I'm the reviewer. Damn it. Okay, they feel like some attempt was made, but ended bleh. There's a bizarre tonal clash where characters who should be wearing absurd wardrobe are surprisingly mundane, and this could have been simply fixed by having people change clothes whenever they get to Hawaii. For example, the Rich family, yeah that's their name, have Noah's scruffy design is okay by itself, yet his father, Jason, is a bizarre event where his getup gets blender after he goes full pirate. This is a big guy in a scruffy getup, obvious tattoos, and wearing a metal bracelet for defense while wielding a Rambo knife. You think that he will shed his shirt to go full barbarian when he joins Majima? Nope, he just puts a ball cap which fixes his hair and he stops using his knife. He ends looking more like a disgruntled baseball dad than a treasure hunter on the brink of alcoholism, while his kid looks like a street urchin, which is okay for someone who lives in an isolated island, but whenever he gets into Hawaii, he looks like completely out of touch. Especially next to Majima, who just wears normal clothes. The idea behind the design of Fujita, the ship's cook, is interesting, but the execution leaves a lot to be desired. He's the big guy, except that he wears a pink shirt, thus drawing attention away from his face, and a tied apron for tools with a watch and a fisher boots. Which, if I may be honest, is kind of a scattered mess. His apron is more like a belt. Why not have a full apron with the pink shirt behind the apron, thus reinforcing that he is a cook? Going on. Yes, I know that there are many characters inspired by their voice actors and celebrities, but where is the bling, the tattoos, the bizarre weapons and over-the-top craziness? Hell, even the expendable mooks you fight at the start are more visually striking than the main villains. The previous game had the Palekana folks with serrated swords and they do show up here, but it seems that all the crazy of piracy started and ended with Majima. Again, this is a series where a golden castle was hidden inside another castle, you had Nishitani III wearing blue and orange, and the best thing you got for the big bad, inspired by Samoa Joe, is a guy dressed like a friggin' jackass who plays loud hip hop on his car at 11 PM? Come on, give me a break. On the positive side, the possibility of pimping out your ship is welcome, and its designs range from good to ludicrous. If there is a thing that is quite at home in the Like a Dragon series, is having a 16th century ship with pink sails and hull looking like a goddamn whorehouse with more lights and lens flare than the modern day Star Trek, braving a storm dramatically and firing a salvo of laser guns from giant revolvers. Enemy ship designs also range from bland to nice. And it's a damn shame they weren't used more properly. You have the whole thing with each pirate having their own flag a la One Piece, but they better show up. The cutscenes are also competent, the new hit action cinematics are quite brutal and awesome, and Goro the Tiger is adorable and could have replaced Noah. But that's for the story because now we're talking about the gameplay, where we can see the Like a Dragon studio and engine doing what they do best, experimenting and improving. The addition of the old brawler formula in this game is the Sea Dog combat style, where Majima goes bonkers using several weapons ranging from dual-wielding cutlasses, guns and an awesome grappling hook, while his older Thug and Mad Dog styles from Zero fused into the new Mad Dog style. Both are equally viable for any situation, but Sea Dog is better for crowds while Mad Dog is better against one-on-one. There is now the addition of juggling mechanics, which just adds to the craziness and a welcome change of pace. The biggest new feature is how you can take charge of a galleon in its sea combats firing port and starboard main cannons, frontal machine guns, or just getting out of the helm and firing a rocket at your enemies. In bigger fights, your main objective is to beat the enemy flagship in open sea combat, which will lead to a big brawl at the enemy ship's deck, where the mechanic of gang warfare seen in previous Yakuza games is used again. You can assign people to be your cannoneers, first mate, gunners, squad leaders, and they come in the usual tiers of bronze to gold. And to no one's surprise, there is also the addition of several mechanics from other games in an improved fashion, such as Ishin's cooking and the random dungeons mixed with some quality of life aspects. You can now cook more than one dish at a time, and while the difficulty will ramp up accordingly, you can counter it by just grabbing better quality ingredients. The usual slew of minigames is back, such as the Dragon Cart from Yakuza 7, with some of the more annoying ones like the dating minigame being downright axed. The grappling hook adds another layer of exploration since you can use to hop to other platforms and catch bugs for some reason. Upgrades are done in a mixed way. Akin to Man That Erased His Name, you have two currencies, the good old money and pirate points, both being used to improve Majima. And that's it. Use raw money to improve most of your ship and crafting supplies to make better and ludicrous weapons. And with any other Yakuza game, this has its own slice of problems due to the implementation of new mechanics, especially since it was done in a rush. This is still a side game after all. Combat-wise, for some reason there is only one hit bar now, severely limited combat, while on the other hand, things got a bit too easy even in the harder difficulties. Purists will find the blend of the good old Thug and Mad Dog style a bit annoying, but I had no problem with it. It's faster and easier to use, but there are some quirks like Majima only using specific actions if he has or not a knife in his hands. What really annoyed me in combat though was the usual problem of the lock-on mechanics present in other games got far worse here. You don't know where Majima will go during a combo, switching targets on the fly for apparently no reason due to proximity or threat. The ship exploration and combat also come with a pile of problems, and this one being mostly due to the inexperience of the studio over this sort of thing. Instead of an open world where players can explore, all you can do is travel between mini-maps, where Majima would disembark on islands, use lighthouses as quick travel points, and fight ships in the open sea. And the ship is slow as molasses with no way of improving its speed. Combat is simple and straightforward. Can be quite fun with using boosters on the ship to make bizarre drifts to align cannons for a shot, but if your crew members are knocked out, or if your ship is affected with a status such as fire or poisoned, you have to manually let go of the helm in order to slowly go and wake up each downed crew member individually, or put out the fire yourself while your ship is a sitting duck. You can use a smoke bomb to cover, but those are severely limited and each action is slow as molasses. To the point it was far better for me to simply restart a fight rather than going through around reviving teammates and removing gunk. The worst aspect though is that to give an illusion of difficulty for the toughest fights, the game cheats like hell. It's nothing serious though, only at specific boss battles for the side content and the Coliseum. You can simply lower the difficulty of the game if it's giving you grief, and nothing will be lost. The mixed approach to upgrades didn't help things either. This is a short game. It only has 5 chapters, and by the half of the second chapter I was already immensely overpowered from just going around greeting people in Hawaii, which gave me a ton of pirate points, and beating out bounties, which gave me a ton of money. Limiting pirate points to just Majima power-ups meant that I was swimming in those by the end of the game, and since the game only uses crafting for some guns, I was also overfed with materials by the end. This is where the crafting system from Ishin would have been handy, giving Majima new cutlasses, guns, or improving the ship's hull. But that would have required a longer production period. For some reasons you can make multiple dishes, but you can't craft multiple materials at once. That was a big oversight. Speaking of your ship, the game doesn't know how to properly use the Goromaru as a mobile hub, to the point where you are given a personal room within the Atlantis, right next to your own ship. While you have the same scooter from Infinite Wealth and its autopilot, the same can't be done to a ship slow as molasses, and the game loves to spread weak ships in your path on purpose, which turns traveling into a drag. and the only quick travels are from lighthouses to lighthouses and ports. Why not do the same approach of the taxis and quick travel from anywhere to those specific spots? The new approach to traveling in a ship also messed up the carefully constructed balance of the new devs seem to have forgotten about. In most Yakuza games, everything was at an arm's reach. When I give a break of the sad main story, the minigames are just a street away. But here, if I want to visit my farm with animals, I need to get back on my boat, travel to Rich Island, go through at least 4 loading screens, then go through a small corridor that will definitely spawn goons that I can easily kill so fast that the title card will still be on screen, and then feed my animals. Madlantis is the same way. It's a long corridor full of small fry that will constantly pick up fights, so getting from one shop to the other ends boring. This is a level of hassle for a simple minigame made me uninterested in tackling the new cart, and I was swimming in points, so the new written test minigame was downright useless. And this brings my greatest gripe with this game. All of the minigames that could have been brought back, why not the make your own resort from Infinite Wealth? It was right there! It would have been solved a ton of issues and made things far more interesting. Make your island your new hub with cart, kitchens, and whatever the hell you need. Farm for bugs and vegetables instead of relying on slow hook to catch the damn butterflies. Places to put your animals and so on. Make it that some upgrades need materials that you can only find in Honolulu or other islands, and done! Finding new crew members is a mixed bag. On one hand, they are plentiful and the main story does give you some nice gold ones. On another hand, it's obvious that Sega wanted your sweet cash, because the only way of finding most of the gold crew members is through grinding in minigames or buying the DLCs. The increasing complexity of the game also did a number on the user interface, with 3 different screens for things that could have been gathered in one. For example, the apps in the cell phone became downright irrelevant and could have been easily accessed with some good organization. So, in the end, you have the pros and cons of what the studio does best, which is experiment undaunted and not afraid of messing up. Good ideas, but a not so good execution. It results in a really nice things, the combat is still fun, the Sea Dog style and the juggling mechanics are a nice addition, and I especially liked the ring mechanic. Now to add armor and attack, Majima equips several rings over his hands, each one with a different effect. It does tie well with the theme of wealth and piracy. Sailing around and blasting opponents using drifting in the middle of the ocean is also fun, even if there may be repetitive due to the constant attacks of small fry during exploration. But it's still an interesting approach to the series that could have been further fleshed out and turned into its own thing. But they also have problems from the half-baked new gameplay mechanics with lots of rough edges, both from experience and from the haste of launching this product. Now on the writing aspect, having went through the majority of the series, I can say that the quality of the writing is an interesting spice by itself. A bad Yakuza game will be still entertaining because it will be ludicrous to the point of being hilarious, like 3 and 6, and a good Yakuza game will be something memorable, like 0 and 7. Yakuza in Hawaii is boring. It's impressive really. The premise of giving Majima, the batshit insane guy of the franchise, a spot where he could shine free from the writing restraints of the other games, in a story with him as a pirate in Hawaii blasting laser cannons at old refurbished ships would be gold and fitting because A. This is the Yakuza series where you have gold castles inside gold castles, and no, I won't let this slide, and B. This is Majima, a man so psychotically crazy that he canonically opened a secret room by headbutting a terminal, defused bombs with the power of mad disregard for his life, and made the biggest and best building in Kamurocho simply because he wanted to do it. C. The tunnel clash announced by Majima wearing a pirate garment is obvious and thus giving the story a free pass into any sort of insanity that may show up, and D. Treasure hunting stories are by themselves simple, straightforward, and immensely flexible. You can focus the treasure hunting story in fleshing the characters themselves. or intrigues between treasure hunters, or just sitting back and watching what sort of wild challenges our protagonists will face. So what the hell went wrong? Simple really. The writers chose to do the same boring formula they always do with the same boring twists. The story couldn't be more generic even if it slapped the Anon mask. So milquetoast, I nearly fell asleep playing it. And so padded, it could feel Stay Puft the Giant Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters 3 times over. No, not the new Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters suck. Now, I try to be not overly hostile in my reviews, but playing through this game gave me the impression that Sega was so surefire of its success that they did the bare minimum. Hell, like I said before, even the design of the NPCs are absolutely bland. When I play as Majima with a leather pirate hat, I want to blow people up. I want to be so awesome that my goons will respect me both out of fear and in awe, and do ludicrous stuff like batting grenades into mouth of zombies. Not deal with the family issues of an asthmatic kid stuck in an island with an alcoholic father. Seriously. Yeah, the whole treasure hunt is just to help a kid get rid of his asthma. Majima wakes up on a beach without his memories, is helped by Noah, a kid whom he forms a bond with, and go through the seas with the objective of finding a cure for Noah's asthma and helping him see the world, because Like a Dragon series got a serious case of Disney infection. He gets a boat alongside Noah, seeking the treasure of the sunken ship Esperanza, which houses a secret elixir of life. In his quest, he goes through the pirate heaven Madlantis and tangles with the local politics, making alliances and enemies as he goes. At first, the game gives you some hope that this won't be a bland adventure with a rather whimsical Disney-esque musical at the start. Which honestly is so purposefully corny to the point it's genuinely hilarious. But sadly this tonal clash goes nowhere, because Sega redoes the same steps of every game in Like a Dragon franchise, which are: your main character needs to be a bastion of morality, which means Majima of all people, the guy who was introduced to this franchise in a scene where he nearly kills a guy with an umbrella, can't kill because Noah is close. Since Majima can't kill, characters who do all sorts of nefarious deeds to him aren't only immediately forgiven, no matter what they do, they join the main group after getting their asses kicked. And since these people who are forgiven can't feel as if they got away scot-free, they are given extremely dramatic backstories to justify their actions. To give everyone fake depth, there are tons of backstabbing, betrayals, and people plotting against each other. And to make the plot feels more important than it is, there has to be a mystery to be unraveled. Gather everything up, and you have a soap opera that moves at a snail's pace. The lightest non-spoilerific example is Jason, Noah's father, who is an alcoholic dick to Noah and to Majima, but it's okay because he has an extremely sad backstory where he was a treasure hunter, got betrayed by his first mate, lost his crew and discovered that his son has a grave sort of asthma. So he does what any father with common sense would do, divorcing his wife and going to live away in God's nowhere in a tiny island without any hospital, selling booze to pirates, because he's really worried about Noah's safety. No, it doesn't make any sense and gets way worse later because it's repeated over and over and over with nearly every single character you find. But wait, there is more! The directing is still absolutely horrible! The very same problems that plagued Infinite Wealth are here cranked up to 11. You have long scenes chock full of needless awkward exposition. God damn it. Let me play. A plot moved by contrived coincidences over huge plot holes and a vicious, irritating amount of needless padding and filler that goes in circles. We need Z, but to get to Z, we need to go to A. Wait! To go to A, you need to go to B. Constantly. For example, I'm in Atlantis and I know that the treasure is in Nether Island, but I need to get the map. To get the map, I need to talk to a guy. To talk to the map guy, I need to go to Hawaii and find his lawyer. I beat the lawyer, yes, this is the Yakuza, only for the lawyer to say that the guy is back at Atlantis. So I go back, beat the guy's bodyguards again, only for him to escape and lead Majima through a whole gauntlet, only for the map guy to say that yes, the treasure is in Nether Island and confirm the f***ing story. So this is all just padding. I thank the gods that this game is only 5 chapters instead of the usual 12, because I wouldn't be able to stand it otherwise. And of course, with such a gigantic amount of padding, there is absolutely no time at all for the characters to breathe, which makes everyone's characterization paper thin. The main real villains are boring and so underused because the plot keeps focusing on fake out villains, characters that look like villains but they aren't villains. In fact, in a game of 5 chapters, there are 3 of these pseudo villains, each one with their arc, which is way too many. Speaking of, there is an attempt, at least I can admit that, to flesh out the side characters through social links and events, but they fall flat because said characters are barely relevant to the plot or wrongly used. For example, I don't hate Noah, but kid companion characters like him are better used to challenge adult character morals or help someone evolve, meaning either kid characters are used by adult characters to evolve, or use adult characters to evolve themselves. Best example is Haruka herself from Yakuza 1, helping Kiryu to grow as a person. Except here, Noah can't challenge Majima's morality because Majima is amnesic, Noah can't grow that much because he isn't the main character, and keeps getting dragged into dangerous places to make the plot move somewhere. His social link events feel like filler because it's a kid that lived his whole life in a secluded island talking with an amnesic. Who imagined that this would be a good idea? The rest of the cast doesn't fare much better. Noah's family was barely fleshed out, with his father just poking here and there, his middle sister just exists to be kidnapped, and his oldest sister barely influences the plot and is there to pretend she's cool. I don't care about Masaru either. He's a cook in a game where the captain's the one to cook. Again, who imagined this would be a good idea? His personal side quests would either be cringy or funny depending on your tastes. With that out of the way, I have to say that this isn't as bad as Infinite Wealth. The story is short, you can easily skip everything without losing yourself, and unlike Infinite Wealth, it doesn't try to awkwardly hammer awful lessons. People still act like idiots here to make the plot move, but it's not as serious and irritating as the previous game. On the side content, unlike Infinity Wealth in hilarious Sujimon League, the Devil Flags plot was absolutely bland, yet it would be a more compelling main story. The side quests were more tepid. But unlike its predecessor, I didn't finish Pirate Yakuza begging God to send whoever wrote the side quests to therapy. Some are funny, some are bleh, I can't recall any specific awful. There were some nuggets of gold amidst the mud in the main story. For example, I actually enjoy seeing Majima being smart and manipulating people for a change and adjusting his strategies on the fly. And while the main villain was absolutely bland, his final fight was actually quite cool. The ending with Majima musing about his adventures was also quite interesting, but sadly, nothing of these points saved the main story, or even hint at hidden potential. This story was dead on the water from the get-go, which is quite sad. The premise had boundless potential. Side games like Yakuza in Hawaii or Man That Erased His Name are by default completely open for experimentation, not only in the gameplay section, but the story as well. Sega could have used this game to springboard something unique and awesome, like a Mad Max in the Hawaiian Sea. Just a plot about Majima going around fighting remnants of the villains of the previous game, or challenging the 5 kings of the sea to find pieces of a treasure map would have been enough. But for that, you need a simple, straightforward story. For all its faults, Dead Souls at least knew it was a cheesy B-flick zombie game, and its story reflected as such in a sense. Pirate Yakuza tried to be everything at once, while at the same time shoving as much as it could in filler, which ended nowhere except bland. In the soundtrack, as usual with the games of Yakuza series, the section will be really short. It's the same top-of-the-line voice actors doing their best regardless of the quality of the materials, and the soundtrack is good. Weaker than the days of yore with rock and thrilling soundtracks, but not bad here. The main song is catchy, and it's a nice detail to have your crew singing it while you travel through the Caribbean. The only thing I have to ask is, why was the tiger dubbed? As final thoughts, in the end, Pirate Yakuza ended in a weird opposite route of Dead Souls. It was a fun, rough in the edges gameplay, but a severely lackluster story, whereas Dead Souls had the absolutely worst gameplay of all the franchise, with a fun story that knew it was cheesy. In the end, Pirate Yakuza was doomed by Sega's inability to allow a good game to grow, both in story and gameplay. If you want something with a different flavor from the main series, just buy this game base with a discount, but hit skip button as much as you can. Otherwise, steer clear. Now for the spoilers, I gotta say, the most awkward shoehorned exposition was right at the start, when the story of the previous game was presented to the player. Majima's amnesia is used by the story to hide a plot twist. He tried to find the elixir of eternal life to cure Kiryu from his cancer. Why? Why hide this? It could have been absolutely more interesting if we knew why Majima was hunting through Hawaii. Majima would be forced to confront the idea that other people may need the elixir more than Kiryu. He'd be forced to weigh down the life of a kid who is starting to see the world and the life of Kiryu, who made a huge impact but already lived his life. He'd have to talk to Noah about his past life and start to change for the better. The amnesia wasn't only completely unnecessary, but this fetish about plot twists hurt the whole story. Of all characters here, the most detrimental with the instant forgiveness was Shigaki. Dude tries to kill Majima twice, once using Noah, a kid, as a shield, and in the end he stabs Noah's father, nearly killing him, and receives absolutely no punishment whatsoever for what he did. He gets his share of the money. Majima rejecting the part of the treasure was also so stupid it hurt. It really makes this game feel as if it was written by Disney. At least he claims that he got no money, and the idea of making a movie about the whole ordeal is funny. A game about Majima making a movie about his life would be awesome. This is all for today, thank you very much for watching and see you all next time.